what is a GMO? What is a genetically modified food?
GMO stands for genetically modified organism. Basically what it is food made in a laboratory. Until the last 20 or 30 years, this is food that has never existed before in humanity. So it's made in a laboratory, and more often than not, they're inserting viruses or bacteria into these plants.
Why do they do that?
They do that because GMOs were designed to sell more chemicals. So when they
process from Monsanto and other giant ag corporations that have either invested millions of dollars to muddy the debate or outright threatened to sue states considering labeling legislation. And now that Vermont has taken the leap, the state is expecting the wrath of Monsanto on its doorstep.
I have seen firsthand exponential growth in allergies. And yet, when I improve the quality of my patients' diets, meaning prescribing a non-GMO diet, prescribing organic food, their symptoms go away.
Some frightening new information for parents. Unborn babies exposed to pesticides in the womb are at risk of lower intelligence later in life. That's according to 3 studies published this week.
A new metadata analysis looking for the cause of declining bee populations worldwide is pointing the finger directly at the use of neonic pesticides. Beekeepers are...
The FDA, Monsanto, and even supposedly natural grocery chains have teamed up to destroy and monopolize our food supply. The result is mutated, poisonous foods that are causing serious health issues for millions of Americans. These foods go against what God created for us. And to top it all off, food costs are spiraling out of control, far outpacing government-reported inflation. And the cover-up reaches to the highest levels of government and big business. Fortunately, there is a simple solution. Thanks to a device invented in biblical times but long since forgotten, anyone can grow their own mouth-wateringly delicious food for pennies on the dollar. I'm going to show you this ridiculously simple device, plus the incredible food it produces, in just a moment. Before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Peterson, and I live in the mountains of Colorado. You may have heard of my Patriot Privacy Kit, which has allowed millions of Americans to take their identity off the grid. But today I'm here to talk about our food supply. If you're like me, you like to be self-sufficient. You want to know that you don't need any of those alphabet agencies from the federal government telling you what to do with your life. And back in the old days, you didn't have to worry about big business or big government sticking their nose in your business. Sadly, those days are gone. Monsanto and the FDA are conspiring to not only control your food, but to poison it to the point where you won't even recognize it. Monsanto and the food cartel they control own over 80% of the U.S. corn market. They own over 70% of the U.S. soybean market. And when you consider that Monsanto either produces or licenses its seed technology for over 80% of the seeds used in all U.S. food production, there's no question that this agri-giant touches nearly everything we eat. And they do this under the guise of more food made cheaper. But as you might expect, when any company has a monopoly, the only thing you can count on is higher prices. In fact, food inflation is as much as 12 times the rate of regular inflation in the U.S. They're doing all this through GMOs. GMO stands for Genetically Modified Organisms, also known as Frankenfood. It's food grown from seeds that were created in a lab. GMO companies are playing God by taking genes from lab-created foods and inserting them into natural foods. They can often completely alter a plant's makeup with the injection of a few genes. The result is often mutated food that barely resembles God's creation. You might already know that, but what you probably don't know is why GMOs exist. Monsanto is responsible for the genetic engineering of our food supply. GMOs were legalized in 1994 and have seen a rapid increase in usage ever since. Monsanto also makes Roundup, the most common pesticide on Earth. Roundup was created to kill off noxious weeds and has been used on nearly all food-bearing plants for the last 30 years. So now you're wondering, what's the connection between GMOs and Roundup? This is key. Monsanto genetically engineers crops for one trait, to withstand higher doses of Roundup. Let me repeat that. Monsanto engineers its seeds so that they can tolerate extremely high levels of its own pesticide. It's pretty ingenious if you think about it, and downright evil. They engineer their seeds so that they can sell more of their own chemicals. It's win-win for that notorious food giant, but lethal for the people consuming its food. Glyphosate use is now 200 times more prevalent than it was in the 1990s. And get this, weeds are gradually becoming more and more resistant to Roundup weed killer. There are now what some people are calling super weeds that cannot be killed by any approved weed killers. So what's happening is farmers are dumping buckets of Roundup on their crops just trying to kill these super weeds. And Monsanto is all too happy to keep selling farmers their genetically modified seeds and thousands of gallons of Roundup. You see, either way, Monsanto wins, and farmers and consumers lose, big time. The worst side effect of all of this is the huge negative impact to the earth and to our health. This drastic increase in pesticide and GMO use has also brought a massive increase in food-related allergies and health problems. Have you found yourself gaining weight but eating the same foods? Do you suffer from heart disease or high blood pressure? Do you have chronic fatigue or battle low energy? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are feeling the same. The drastic rise in pesticide, herbicide, and GMO use has happened at the exact same time we've seen a drastic rise in heart disease, high blood pressure, food allergies, and chronic fatigue. Is it a coincidence? You decide for yourself. An MIT researcher believes that 50% of all children could be autistic to some degree by 2025 if our use of Roundup, also known as glyphosate, continues on its current course. Using these deadly chemicals has become all too common in farming. And Monsanto hasn't stopped there. No, they have an army of lawyers attacking anyone who dares challenge their almighty money machine. They've recently sued Vermont and other states to stop mandatory labeling of GMO foods. Now, these states are not trying to ban GMO foods, mind you. They are simply trying to let the consumer know that their food contains GMOs. And they've recruited supposedly organic grocery chains like Whole Foods to help them sue states. The very companies that proclaim to be about healthy eating are trying to make sure that you'll never know what is really in your food. They've even sued farmers who weren't using their GMO seeds because Monsanto seeds had taken root on their property after being carried there by the wind. To make matters worse, corrupt members of Congress, funded by Monsanto, are trying to pass the DARK Act, which would ban the labeling of GMO foods. Now, why would a company want to make sure that consumers never know that their food contains GMOs? Monsanto has always said that GMOs are safe. If they're safe, why on earth would they spend millions of dollars sponsoring legislation that would outlaw labeling GMO foods? Wouldn't you want people to know that they are eating your supposedly safe food? Even if you believe that GMOs are safe, don't you want to know what is in your food? Isn't that a fundamental American right? Even the corrupt and archaic Russian government has classified GMOs as a secret biowarfare weapon. When you mess with nature and God himself, you can expect to pay a price, usually in ways you never thought of. We're seeing this every day with the nasty side effects of man-made chemicals, drugs, and technology. At times like this, when I'm confused about who and what I should trust, I like to refer to my Bible for guidance. And I couldn't have put it better myself. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food." Genesis 1:29. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. Genesis 9:3. Do you not know that you are God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. Corinthians 3:16 and 17. God has always wanted us to eat what He gave us. He did not intend for us to start messing with His creations and to put this poison into our bodies. But we've lost that message over time, as we have with so many of His messages in our mixed-up, poisonous culture. Who are we to go against the Word of God? The Obama administration is part of the conspiracy against your food. Don't believe me? Then why is Michael Taylor, former VP of Monsanto and formerly their lead lobbyist, now the Deputy Secretary of the Food and Drug Administration? Why is Linda Fisher, former VP of Monsanto, a Deputy Secretary of the Environmental Protection Agency? The list goes on. There is a revolving door of people who go from the ranks of Monsanto straight to the government agencies that are supposed to have our best interests at heart. They are supposed to keep big companies like Monsanto in check. But obviously, if they were previously employed by Monsanto, there is a clear conflict of interest. In fact, these people may one day plan to return to Monsanto after pushing Monsanto's agenda at the government level. This is the kind of corruption in our government that puts corporate profits above human health and well-being, and this corruption can be seen every day. For example, the EPA just allowed a 3,000% increase in the amount of pesticides that are acceptable in our food. I believe that the Monsanto story is following a similar path as Big Tobacco. A few years from now, we'll discover that Monsanto knew all along how harmful its chemicals were and did nothing to stop it, and in fact covered up its own evil deeds. If you're a father, a mother, or a husband, or a wife, you owe it to your family to feed them healthy, delicious food. You must take matters into your own hands if you're going to survive a crisis and fight chronic illness brought on by the ever-present factory food. And of course, the corrupt United Nations has its own plans for your food too. It's called Agenda 21 by the United Nations and Executive Order 13603, and their plan is to inventory and eventually control every single acre of farmland on the planet. Do you trust those crooks with your food supply? The United Nations says it wants to simply catalog all available farmland, including your backyard. But what it really wants to do is control and manage the world's food supply. The message is clear. The federal government, the UN, and big agriculture won't be satisfied until they control every single ounce of food you ever eat. Until then, it's up to us to do something about it. Back in 2007, I decided it was time I did something about it. I decided to take my family's survival, health, and my future into my own hands. I needed a cheap and easy way to produce my own mouth-watering fruits and vegetables without using pesticides and herbicides. Plus, I wanted a way to control my food supply in the event of a sudden world economic or terrorist crisis. The forces of evil that want to destroy us know that they cannot attack us head-on, so they're very likely to attack our food supply. And when catastrophic storms and natural events hit, as they so often do now, the first thing that disappears from stores is food. So, I began researching the next problem: how to grow my own self-sufficient survival farm with healthy, delicious food in a forbidding climate. I tried everything. I tried hydroponics, aquaponics, and every other ponics I could get my hands on. Those systems were way too complex, time-consuming, and expensive. There were so many moving parts and so many things that could go wrong. All it took was one little part of the system to break down, and the whole thing would collapse and the plants would die. It was way too hard. No, I wanted an easy way to eat and feel healthy, and to grow my very own survival garden without using chemicals or complicated systems. So I searched far and wide. I spent long nights researching easy-to-grow growing methods. Finally, I found a kindly older woman named Ruth. Ruth was president of a local gardening club for almost 40 years. She's been growing her own food for over 60 years. She reminded me of my sweet little old grandmother. Ruth has forgotten more about gardening than many of us will ever know. And Ruth told me the secret of easy, all-natural gardening in any climate. She told me of something she stumbled on long ago. It was called a Growdome. It was discovered all the way back in 14 A.D. The Roman Emperor Tiberius was a very private and cautious man. Afraid that he would be poisoned, he commissioned his staff to stop bringing in outside food and start producing everything within the walls of his palace. Sound familiar? Tiberius and his staff experimented for years with various gardening techniques, but were frustrated by the lack of production they saw and the constant plagues of insects that were ruining his food supply. Eventually, they struck on a simple and incredibly effective solution: the Growdome. Even in 14 A.D., they had versions of glass, but it was hard to make and extremely brittle. They couldn't create large sections of glass easily. Plus, the ever-cautious emperor wanted to be able to move his food supply in the event of civil unrest, and large greenhouses were complicated to construct and susceptible to damage by storms. So, after years of refining, the emperor and his staff created the Tiberian Growdome. This thing is so simple that it seems a little silly to tell you the truth, but I decided I'd try to build one myself with Ruth's help. Fortunately, the materials we have these days make this an incredibly simple process. Ruth showed me exactly how she grows twice the amount of delicious fruits, vegetables, and herbs than anyone in her gardening club with this little device. Instead of glass, I used plastic sheeting. Instead of metal, I used PVC, and I just used good old potting soil. I planted tomatoes, peppers, lettuces, herbs, and much, much more. And then I waited. What happened next made my jaw drop. My crop production doubled. I was able to do 2 plantings a year instead of 1, even in my cold climate. The Growdome proved impervious to insects. Not only was I producing more delicious food, but it was easier than ever because I wasn't spending time getting rid of crop-ruining insects and weeds. Ruth and I were dancing for joy the day I got to harvest this amazing bounty, and that was just the beginning of my gardening success. And I could move the Growdomes on and off the crops easily as needed, and I could make the Growdomes any size I needed for any crop I needed. The domes were completely modular and movable, and the food they produced was quite simply the best I had ever tasted. It reminded me of the mouth-watering vegetables that my grandmother had grown in her own garden all those years ago. I had found my easy, healthy food solution, and I want to help other folks like you, too. I want to help you get back to the old days when we grew our own food and took care of our family's health right in our own backyard. So I had Ruth tell me everything she knew about gardening. 3 months later, exhausted but thrilled, we had a definitive system that anyone with any skill level, even those black thumb guys like me, could do. And now we want to share it with you and hopes you'll do this for yourself and for your family. Here's what we'll cover in this hard copy physical book. I've split the Tiberian Growdome system up into a 4-part process so that anyone with any skill level, any amount of gardening space, any climate, and any budget can do this, and you can customize it perfectly to your own situation. First up, we'll show you how to build my Growdome, pioneered all the way back in 14 A.D. This Growdome is perfect for those wanting to get started with a small food factory in their backyard and don't have the time, energy, or even space to build large gardens. You can set this all up in about an hour and for less than $15. This first step Growdome is portable and lightweight when it's assembled. It can also be quickly disassembled to take somewhere else in a crisis. No need for expensive glass or hard-to-work-with metal. The Growdome can be easily built with materials available at any Home Depot. These features allow for all sorts of other neat tricks, too. If you have very limited space, this Growdome is for you. With our design blueprints, you can scale this Growdome to meet your needs, even if you have very limited space like a deck or patio. If your plants need full sun, you can simply lift the Growdome off of them for the day and then cover them back up in the evening to keep them warm throughout the night. Need partial sun or measured ventilation on a particularly hot day? Simply tip it up and prop it to the desired height. Want another form of access? Make different styles of doors and vents that I cover in the book. This is the fastest and easiest way to start enjoying your own delicious, healthful, organic food. You'll feel better twice with this system. Once while you're growing the food, and again when you eat it. And you'll keep pesky critters, nosy neighbors, and nasty pests away from your food factory. Step 2 is the fun and simple hoop house. The hoop house is so easy to build you can put it together in less than an hour and for less than $20. It only took me 20 minutes after I got the materials. This is the fast and easy way to double the capacity of your grow dome and even feed your family for the entire year. My system shows you how to adjust the size so you can customize it for your favorite plants. There's no need for the back-breaking chore of weeding. There's no need for poisonous pesticides and herbicides with this system. Even watering is easy if you follow my step-by-step instructions. There's nothing quite like the satisfaction of biting into your first fresh, juicy strawberry, grown in your own backyard grow dome. Strawberries from the store, by the way, have been one of the worst fruits you can eat. They have been routinely sprayed with methyl bromide. Yikes. But now you can finally enjoy them worry-free. Next up is the most robust stand-up grow dome. This is probably the most popular option, not only because it stands up to weather well, but you can design it so that you can stand up completely inside, and I'm over 6 feet tall. This makes it easy to get to your plants while you're growing and harvesting your bounty, and it works well for foods like corn, beans, and peas. We'll walk you through the design step by step and give you the lowdown on if this grow dome is right for you. This is the best way to grow a complete meal plan for your family and slash your grocery bill. The pitched roof design is perfect for when you get some snow and rain and to adjust it to the angle of the sun. And this grow dome is customizable as well. While most people use the designs for large plots, the design can be used for a small condo-sized planting bed too. Finally, we'll show you how to build a reverse grow dome, which is perfect for hot or very sunny climates. Folks in hot climates have the opposite problem that I do. Your plants get too hot and you need to keep them cool. This reverse grow dome will allow you to do just that. Keep your plants from wilting in the extreme heat and increase your crop yields by as much as 79%. Each of the 4 steps comes with plans and blueprints, with easy-to-follow instructions with drawings. We include several photos of real systems that are producing amazing fruits, vegetables, and even medicinal plants. And we'll include complete material shopping lists that you can take with you to the store so you can get this done quickly and cheaply with 0 headaches. This is a great, easy project for you or your entire family. Nothing brings a family together like working on a quick project on a sunny Saturday afternoon, and then standing together admiring your work and knowing that it will produce mouth-watering food and save you hundreds of dollars a year will make it all worthwhile. Plus, I have some great bonuses for you to make this an absolute no-brainer. Free hard copy bonus number 1, The Ultimate Guide to Storing Food for a Crisis. My sweet little old grandmother knew the key to survival and keeping skyrocketing food costs down, storing food properly so that it can last years and even decades. I spent 3 months following her around her massive food cache, learning all her little tips and tricks for storing food the easy way. In this essential 46-page guide, we cover everything you need to know, including how much food to store to survive any crisis, no matter how small or big your family is. Picking the most delicious and nutritious foods for long-term storage. The optimal temperature range for long-term food storage, so your food lasts longer. Why you should freeze all your grains, flours, and rices before storage. Which food you should eat first. How long your food will last if you follow these methods. How to know if your food is rotten without opening the container. The unknown spices and oils that will keep mice and pests out of your food stores. The best places to store your food cache. Plus, where you can hide your stash to keep it away from looters and intruders. Which luxury items to include to keep your survival cache interesting. the century-old trick for easy canning, a list of kitchen items to always keep with your cash, how to choose between freeze-dried, canned, or dehydrated foods, detailed instructions on canning, freeze-drying, dehydrating that any dummy, even me, can follow, including a list of the things my grandmother used to jar her own items. Plus, I cover storing heirloom and sprouting seeds, too. Free hard copy bonus number 2, Ultimate Guide to Storing Water for a Crisis. You already know that you won't survive long without water in a crisis, but it's essential that you know how to treat and store water for your family and for your survival grow dome in the event that a crisis takes down your local water utility. You'll learn the best methods for storing water for years at a time for any survival situation. How to treat water on the fly cheaply and easily for you and your garden. The best containers to use so that you don't ruin your water supply. Self-bottling tips, rain barrel techniques so that you can capture the water that falls on your property, and much more. Here's what some very happy customers have to say about the Tiberian Growdome system. Wow, Chris, I saw your geodesic grow dome in your yard and couldn't stop asking you questions about it. I couldn't believe how simple it was to build and how inexpensive. I can't wait to start planting in my own this spring. Nathan Yu, Colorado. I just received your Tiberian Growdome book and I can't believe how easy to follow it is. I can't wait to get started building my own freedom farm with my family. I can't stand Monsanto and all of the chemicals and GMOs they promote. Now, I have a new way to eat healthy, farm-fresh food. Thank you so much. Alex V. I got your book on whim and was a little skeptical about your claims, Chris. I just have to say, now I am a believer. I have 2 different kinds of grow domes, and they are producing more plump vegetables than I ever thought possible, even in winter. It works. Sorry I didn't believe you. Jane Hallowell, Texas. Plus, you can email me your questions about setting up and using any of the grow domes anytime. If you get stuck or have a question, just email me at chris@selfrely.com and I'll be happy to help. We can even trade photos of our crops. Now, I know you're wondering how much of your hard-earned money you'll have to invest in this incredible food system. Well, let me ask you a couple of quick questions. How much is your health worth? I can tell you, I would have traded anything to get my energy, my immune system, and my healthy life back all those years ago. How much is your family's survival worth? I can tell you that if you're going to truly be prepared for a crisis, you had better have your own healthy, fresh food supply, and you better know how to store it for the long term. It took me months to gather the best plans ever devised for grow domes with Ruth's help, and then years to perfect those designs for maximum output with minimum input. All that knowledge, all the time invested is available to you now in a book you can read in about 2 hours. Okay, so what is the cost? We currently plan to raise the price of our book to $67 as soon as we run through our initial inventory. But for this first print run, Ruth and I want to get it into as many hands as possible and spread the news that there is an easy way to take your food supply into your own hands. We want Americans to have access to healthy, affordable food they can feel confident feeding their family. So, until we run out of this first print run, it's only $37 to get the 120-page book that could change the way you eat and the way you feel forever. Look, have you priced out organic produce lately? If you have, you know it's expensive. A small carton of organic strawberries can cost $5. That's maybe 2 or 3 servings. It almost doesn't matter what kind of organic food you buy, tomatoes, blueberries, apples. If it's organic, it costs a lot more. Naturally, growing your own organic, non-GMO food is not only healthy for you and your family, it's also inexpensive compared to buying the same organic foods at your local grocery store. You can conservatively save $50 to $100 a month on your grocery bill with a small garden plot using one of our Tiberian grow domes. In other words, you could more than make back your investment in our book during the very first month you start harvesting food. Not only that, consider the alternative. Eating a diet of pesticide-soaked GMO food that slowly poisons your body and can cause nasty diseases like cancer, Crohn's, and hard-to-diagnose autoimmune disorders. If you think buying organic food is expensive, consider the cost of treating a disease like cancer. Now you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars every single month. The cost is so heavy it's likely to bankrupt your family within a few short years. The small investment in our book is practically nothing considering the alternatives. For less than a couple days' supply of organic produce at the grocery store, you can unlock the freedom of taking over your own food supply. Plus, I'll offer you my exclusive quadruple guarantee. I know you're a savvy individual and you're looking for easy ways to ensure your survival, get healthy, and slash your grocery bill, or you wouldn't have made it this far. But you want to know that there is no risk to your hard-earned money before you invest in this system. So I'll do that, but I won't just guarantee your money back if you're not happy. I'll make 4 guarantees for you, and I'll double your money back to show you how serious I am. I'll guarantee that you won't find a more complete, more useful, more unique growing system anywhere on the planet. The topics we discuss here are tried and true and 1,000 times easier than those complicated aquaponics growing systems you've seen elsewhere. I guarantee you'll receive the best customer service you've ever seen. If there are ever any issues with billing or receiving your materials, just email me personally at chris@selfrely.com, or you can call 970-367-7624, or write to me at the Self-Reliance Association, 1815 Central Park Drive, number 358, Steamboat Springs, Colorado, 80477. I will get back to you, always within 24 hours and usually within a couple of hours. I have been so frustrated by the decline in customer service over the years in this country that I am determined to change it for the better for our members. I'll also warranty your book experience for a full year. If at any time you're not happy with your book, just return it, and I'll return your money, no questions asked. Finally, I am such a believer in this new system, I'm going to bet the price of the book that you're going to love it too. So try out the Tiberian Growdome system for 1 full year. Test this one-of-a-kind growth system for yourself. If you're not convinced that this will increase your yields by at least 50%, I'll not only return your money, but I'll double it as an apology for wasting your time. I just ask that you show me that you've at least tried the system. That's it. So you'll get your money back for a full year if you don't like the books. And if you try the system and determine this just isn't for you, I'll double your money back. It's all part of my quadruple guarantee, and it's only for Tiberian Growdome system customers. We are also A-rated members of the Better Business Bureau and Trust Guard, great companies that ensure consumers like yourself are protected if there are any issues. Are you ready to take your food supply off the grid? Are you ready to survive any crisis by taking care of your own food supply? Are you ready for mouth-wateringly delicious food grown in your own backyard, practically year-round? Imagine taking charge of your own health and your family's future by personally nurturing and producing what they put into their bodies every day. Is there anything more important than knowing what we're eating? Is there anything more important than eating delicious, healthy food instead of the poisonous, cancer-causing frankenfood we're supposed to consume from the food giants? It's time to take charge and tell them we're not going to take it anymore. Get out your credit card, set it on the keyboard, and enter your information below for your book and all the bonuses. Or you can call 877-284-1742 to order your book and bonuses, and I'll personally mail them to you today. Click the button to order now, and make sure you send us photos of your new Tiberian Growdome and the produce you're able to grow inside.